Hello everyone, I'm Colette and I'm here today to talk to you about what you can do as a witch when someone is in the death process or when they're dying. Assisting someone when they're crossing over is really different than trying to cross spirits when someone is already dead. You might have time to prepare magically, you might have time to get supplies together, or it could be really sudden and you might just have to go in the moment. And you could be anywhere. You could be in public, you could be in a hospital, you could be in a home, and you may not be able to be overt about what you say and do and using all your witchy powers externally. And so the most important thing to think about is what is the energy that you carry internally when you do this work. That's what influences how well you do this particular kind of a task. You might need to be really discreet, and I would really just say that if you're just starting this process, if you feel like you might be called to this kind of work, the easiest place to start is with people that you know a little bit versus complete strangers or someone that you are deeply grieving as they're in this process. But this process can also be adapted for a complete stranger as you gain more skills. And I think that this particular service is something that witches who have an affinity for spirit working with the dead can offer. And it's really much, much, much needed. If it's someone you know, you're going to have to do an assessment internally to just see how available you really are emotionally. Or is it just your job to grieve and say goodbye to them in this moment? If you know that a death is coming, I would gather up a few supplies to use. And one of the most important things I would have is protection for yourself, particularly if you might be in a public setting, to just ward off other people's emotions, particularly if you're very sensitive or empathic, or if you're in a hospital setting where there's likely to be a lot of ghosts. I would start with wearing a piece of jewelry that is protective, either one that you've charged or charmed with protection, or maybe one that has protective symbols on it that you have bought for that particular purpose. I would also make a protective and banishing spray to put around yourself. I have a few different videos on that, making a protective spray. I also like to have a bundle of protective herbs and flowers to carry and take with me. If it's a situation where you can do this, I would lay them directly on the body as the person is passing, and you can also brush the person down with the herbs if you have some privacy or people around you might not be freaked out about that. If there's time ahead, I think it's a good idea to talk to family members or maybe even that person ahead of time if they're still conscious, to ask them about those who are the beloved dead, those who are on the other side. And that could even be a special familiar or pet that they had, animal companion that's on the other side that can help them cross over. And you will be calling on them either internally or externally with your voice as they are crossing. So those are things that it's good to know. One of the things that's really helpful when you're helping someone cross, even if they're comatose or unconscious, is using references from their spiritual belief system to help them cross. So ideally, you can find that information out. It doesn't have to be an organized religion. It can just be nature or being in the woods, and that will work for them. You also need to check in with yourself and see if you're comfortable calling on the gods, beings, or images from their form of spirituality. And if you're not, it makes it a little harder. It's good to be versatile in this moment because it's not about you and your beliefs. It's about that particular person and their crossing. Then gather your protection and go, staying as calm and centered as you can. And before you enter the hospital or the house, pause, take a breath, and center yourself. Connect your body to the earth. Make sure that you're grounded here in the human realm. And if at any point you lose that focus, take a moment to go back outside and repeat that process. If you're somewhere public and it's too much hassle to go outside, or if it happened suddenly, you were already there and the process became really apparent that they are starting to cross over, a bathroom will often give really good privacy for you to do that work. It's also really helpful if you just take a moment to notice what the energy is like in the room. Not the franticness of relatives, but the energy of the death gate itself. I often experience it as sort of a slowing and calming and opening sensation, and try to match your energy to that if you have that skill. If you don't, that's all right. And then at that point, what I do is, if I can, I brush them down with the herbs or lay them on their body. And then I just sit down and start to calm myself and help ground the energy in the room if you can, and if that's something that you're comfortable doing. Then I just slowly start to slow my breath and just take a moment to arrive, check in with where they are in their process, and then maybe I'll put a hand on them, on their arm or on their wrist, or just sit closely by. You might want to hold their hand. It depends on your relationship and how it feels and how comfortable you are. Sometimes bodies are very cold as they're starting to pass, and that might not be comfortable for you to do. So just stay in your comfort zone and stay with what it feels like would be appropriate and appreciated. So the first thing I like to do when I sit down with them is to just say my name, let them know I'm there, and let them know that I'm there to support and help them in their process. And I will do whatever I can to make this process as easy as possible for them. Then I start talking out loud to them if I have the space and privacy to do so. Sometimes I whisper to them, sometimes I talk to them internally with my energy and with my spirit. And you might be talking to their spirit. Their spirit might already be a little bit out of their body and not very present. And you might do that for a while. You might just keep reassuring them every so often. You don't have to continuously talk, just keep reassuring them every so often, and then pausing and letting that sink in. You can remind them of loved ones that are on the other side waiting for them, and that is often very, very comforting. You can just say, you are going to see so-and-so again. They're waiting for you. They're ready to greet you. They are so joyous to be reunited with you. It can be you are going to join the wild, the earth, and the spirit of the earth itself. I often find that having living loved ones say goodbye and reassure them and let them know that it's okay to go can be really, really helpful. And then at a certain point, you might want to start reminding them of their spirituality, of their deity. Remind them that their deity, if they worked with one, is waiting for them. Sometimes you might say something like, all the love that you poured out in your life is now surrounding you, and that's just going to make your path like a gentle wave that carries you to the other side. If they were held in love, you can tell them that. You can also let them know again that people are waiting for them. And then I start to talk about the path is clear ahead of you. You know how to do this. Your spirit knows how to do it. Just like you knew how to be born, you know how to cross. And just remind them of that and just keep telling them the gates are open. The path is easy. Continue to walk forward to your beloved dead, to spirit on the other side. Always assume that the person who is passing can on some level hear what you say. Often during the death process, the body struggles a little bit because the body has a strong genetic code that wants it to survive at all costs, even if the spirit is not in the body. Even if the spirit is fine passing on, the body itself might really struggle to hold on. So if you're sensing that, or it's physically apparent, you might just talk to that body, put your hands on that body and say, this body is being held in love. This body is being held in safety. It's time for this body to let go. This body has done its work. And just try and do whatever you can to soothe the physical body. And you can say those same things to the spirit if in any way you sense that the spirit is panicking or is having difficulty letting go. You can also say something to the spirit like, you're in the hard part of this process, but it's going to be okay. I'll be with you. Trust your instincts about how often to talk and how often to be silent. I think it's better to err on the side of long pauses and before you talk again. Don't just sit there and chatter with them. I also use my intuition about when it's time to tell them it's okay to go. Relax, soften, and surrender to this process. And I often will just keep repeating that. And I might remind them that I know it's hard, that it might be difficult for them, but they are in a process and it's time to surrender to it and let go. And reassure them that it's okay for them to go, that everyone on this side will be okay. Sometimes the death process is long. Sometimes it takes days, and you may not physically be able to be with them every moment as they're crossing. It may not even be possible for someone to be with them. And remember that the person that is dying may choose to go when everyone is asleep or when no one is there. And that's their choice. And if they make that choice, that is right and perfect for them. So make sure that you say your goodbyes when you first arrive and you first know that this death process has started. Remember that you are assisting them physically and spiritually, but the death process itself is out of your control, more in their hands, more in spirit hands, and you need to turn that over as well. And when they finally pass, thank them for doing that work, say a final goodbye, bid their spirit farewell, light a candle for them, and let them go. Cut yourself out of the energy, shower, brush yourself down, and completely let go of standing in the death gate, at least temporarily. If anyone listening has experience with the death process and would like to share their experiences and things that they've found helpful, I think that would be really awesome. And if you were watching this in real time, I have a Samhain trance that's available on my website as a workshop that you can purchase, and it's also available for free on my Patreon site as a bonus for anyone that joins this month. So until I see you next time, stay safe and be